I think the best metric for me, and this is subjective, as most of this is probably going to be, but um, the league it's league performance and then Champions League performance for me are the big two, right? And the Ajax team, obviously, they lost one game once. So they, I think that's the best as far as league goes. Um, let's see here. Yeah, 1920 Bayern lost 4 times. How many times did these guys lose 5 times in La Liga? I think you might be right there, Patrick. I think that 72 Ajax is looking strong.
Yeah. And another thing to keep in mind, what that 72 Ajax team has led to after the fact. Total football. I mean, Pep plays it to a T. It's like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to put that influenced the Barcelona teams when Pep was playing. So
exactly.
I mean, it's
so I mean they were it.
And yet somehow they still haven't won a World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dutch. It's insane that they haven't won a World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I'm going through the results, the league results for each of them. It looks like the Ajax team is the only one to have won the league with one league loss.
Absolute wagon.
Do we have to count the quality of the league for that? Because it's like, for example, if PSG won the treble, right?
We'd all be screaming farmers. Yeah.
I mean, they're supposed to win the other two.
Yeah.
Can we not do that? Here's playing devil's advocate. I think there's a little bit about the league this year, so there's a little truth to it. Is that not what the Prim was this year? Like, besides our Big Six didn't perform. Our Big Six didn't perform. Like 4 of us.
City lost 5 times this season.
Well, I'm saying, other than Arsenal, there was no one to even give City a run for their money on the back end of that chase.
But I mean,
Brentford beat City twice this season. I'm just saying.
Back, like 8 points. That's huge.
I think the thing about this City team, and I said it the other night when we kind of started talking about City in the terms of a treble and whatnot. I think seeing this City team chase down Arsenal, get into that groove, and be able to just clear through the Champions League like they did.
Also holding champions with who they played. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a big deal. But as I look down this Barcelona team, they lost. They lost a game against Bayern in the semifinals, 3-2. They won on aggregate 5-3. They lost to PSG in the group stage, which I think that's Zlatan's PSG with Cavani. Maybe.
Sure.
I have to look. I think Cavani was on the team at that time. So I mean, that PSG team was pretty stacked. But I think the thing that gets kind of lost in all of this, and it makes it really hard, is what was the talent level that Ajax team played compared to what that Barcelona team played. Like I mentioned, they played Real Madrid with Ronaldo.
And healthy Ramos. Oh my god, and a Marcelo.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point about City hitting into gear at the end of the season, the 1920 Bayern team won 19 of their last 20 league games.
Wow.
And the other one was a draw.
Wow.
They went 20 unbeaten at the end of the season. Just like City did 15 unbeaten or whatever at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, until they dropped it against Brentford.
When it was done, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
it's tough
turning on the league, yeah, but it's really tough. I agree that a big part of it is who they played.
I mean, I'll give
But
City their props.
I think
man. They had a
impact
hard
wise,
run.
that Ajax team is still impacting soccer till today.
Cruyff.
Yeah. So let's get an official top 3. What do you think, Patrick?
I'm gonna go Ajax 1, Barcelona 2014-15 2, and just because it was such a weird season, I'm gonna actually go with that 2019-20 Bayern, because it was a loaded team, and what they did to those teams, they dismantled them. Dismantled teams.
Yeah. I'm with you. What you think, X? You got a top 3?
I'm gonna go Bayern, Barca, Inter.
Which Bayern, which Barca?
Oh, the 19 Barca or 19 Bayern, 15 Barca,
Yeah.
Inter with Jose.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
impressive side.
that Inter team was really, really good. It was
It's-
loaded too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they were loaded,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it's still with the Juve hasn't fallen off the boat yet. Milan's still competing. Like to win that league is still. I mean, same can be said for a lot of teams, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a little bit of a bias there for Jose, but I like that Inter squad.
I'll never ever forget that season when Maicon scored the goal from he was almost out of bounds on the goal line, and Jose almost loses his jacket running down the sideline to
Yeah.
celebrate.
Was
Bolting.
that the one where they had the header
Yeah.
from like midfield? Was that season?
I
Like
might have been.
Stankovic or something?
Yeah, it might have been. I remember what goal you're talking about. I'm not sure if it was that season, but yeah.
It was. They played. I want to say they played Bayern with Neuer.
Okay, yeah.
No, look.
That team was definitely stacked. Diego Milito had himself a season that year. That's for
No,
sure.
it wasn't that team, because that team played Bayern in the final, so it wasn't that team. So it might have been the next year.
Yeah.
Yo, it's
What
so
you thinking,
hard.
Lewis? You got a top 3?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, and I think my logic is gonna be just a black and white trophy count. So I'm going with the Bayern team from 1920, 6 trophies. I'm gonna go with the MSN Barcelona team, and then I'm going with the Homers, Blue Moon 23, because why not?
Because why not? Because you're a fan. That's right.
Yeah.
Go
That's
for
right.
it, man.
That's right. You deserve
Why?
it. That's
Don't be
right.
ashamed.
The fact that
Honestly-
you're even in the conversation, like the fact that you've done it, you're one of the 10. It's just that alone is to be in an echelon above. It
Yeah,
is a step above the
absolutely.
rest, and it's hard. It's fun that we get to nitpick. We're at this stage of the game, and we have enough history behind us that we get to look back all the way to 1920 and nitpick about like, oh my gosh, these guys won 6 trophies, and we've got to witness a Barca side and witness a Bayern side, and now a Man City side that have done it. As advent in well-versed football fans, to probably have watched those games ourselves or have been around in a room. It's very humbling and blessed, but it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how City respond to the success and how it carries forward and the momentum that they have, being that echelon for the Premier League. And to say that I'm a Premier League, purist. I if anyone's going to win the trophy, there's a little bit of side of me that wanted, Lukaku to hit a good goal just because I need him sold and I need some money gone off the books. But if it's going to go anywhere, like Jake, we talked about this on a past podcast, I'd rather see it at the Prem, because if it's at the Prem, at least, we have a piece of it. It's like why SEC fans and ACC fans are fans of that conference and stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's as long as it's coming home in some way, shape, or form, it means something to all of us. And as a Chelsea fan, and I would say if anyone's going to win it, I'd rather it be someone who beat us 7 times this season, not once in a random final. So like I said, kudos to City, kudos to Pep. what he's done at City and the hold that he's had over our league for this long speaks volume to that manager. For him to do it twice, I'm shocked Jose hasn't done it twice. I'm shocked some of these other managers haven't done it twice. But to do it twice on to do it twice at 2 different countries and 2 different leagues speaks volumes to the the talent
quick
you have.
point for what you said. Jose never got a chance because I think he had he was in the direction at Real Madrid, but got fired before he can get that.
Same at Chelsea. He got
fired before he could get it done.
No, I think it would have come at Madrid if it was going to come anywhere.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
That was like prime Ronaldo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something to be said. Go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say one thing about we discussed, I don't know if we really discussed the 13-14 Bayern, but one thing that I think gets held against them is they played
12-13. Are you talking about the year before?
Maybe. I think so.
You're still talking about the treble winning side was 12-13.
Okay, 12-13. They played Dortmund, right? They've been playing them throughout the season, and they leaked that Götze and Lewandowski were leaving Dortmund to go to Bayern right before the final.
Right before the final. Yeah.
That was awful.
That was terrible.
Because Klopp was there.
No, that team only lost 1 league game.
That's so.
Yeah, they won the league. They won the league by 25 points. Good God.
Yeah.
But I think Dortmund had won the league the year before.
Yeah. Klopp.
So I think it was anger because Bayern seems to respond very well with anger.
To the revenge. They like their dish served cold.
Yeah, there you go.
But Jake, what's yours?
I think it's an interesting thing to note, the recency bias thing, because the game has evolved and the game is different. We're not playing the same game Cruyff was playing. We're not saying playing the same game that Giggs and Scholes and
your rugby back then.
Right. So what I do think is that if we were to put these teams on the pitch together, Man City would probably maul everybody. Just because
that Inter team?
Yes, just because of how the game has evolved, just because of where the game is today, and the fact that City, have done it now in, I think, the toughest, environment for it to be done. In the toughest league that we have, this. I mean, I guess that's arguable. But
I would argue the Prem is until the day I die. That's a hill, as you like to say. That's a hill I'm willing to bleed on. The Prem is by far.
I just think that City's defense this season was absolutely lights out, and that's where the best champions win, is with defense. The Barca team in 2008 got scored on 35 times in the league. That's it. The Barca, they got scored on 21 times in the league. Yes, both those teams scored over 100 goals in the league, but they also only gave up 21. The Bayern team in 13 gave up 18 goals. And so I think that even with all that firepower, yes, it'd be great. It'd be fun to watch. I think if we actually saw them play against each other, I think City would win.
You think
of those games?
If we take today's rules into it as well, if we play a modern day game with those older games,
all of that, yeah.
I do think the game's gotten a little bit more technical. So yes, I would agree with that.
Because the United team would maul everybody.
That's what I'm saying. You're just as soon as De Bruyne gets checked like that, he's not gonna respond well.
It's galore.
Yeah, red cards galore.
So Bayern 12-13.
What's your 3, Jake? What's your
as far as impressive? I think that only losing 1 game total all season, 72 Ajax, definitely super impressive, most influential for sure. I'll agree with you on that one, Patrick. Then I'm saying Henri, my man, Messi, and Eto'o. Pep's first, the first European one in our modern era in the games, at least because that was right about when I started really watching week in and week out.
Yeah.
And then the 1920 Bayern team, I'm gonna say,
For the trophies.
yeah, for the trophies for the
Okay.
6. That's my 3.
I got you.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think you're about to say, Patrick.
Yeah, sorry,
I was
Patrick.
going to say, you were talking about people being scored on, and I was complaining about the 12-13 Bayern, but I just went back and looked. 33 goals given up, 151 goals for. They had an 85% win percentage that season.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to think they played one of their fellow teams from their league for the Champions League final. So it's not like that they were just beating up on Sisters of the Poor.
They literally played Dortmund in every competition. They had to beat Dortmund in all those competitions. In the German Cup, they played in the DFL Super Cup, whatever that is. It's probably like the League Cup, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
They drew Dortmund both games, actually, in the league that season.
They beat them once. They beat them 1-0 in the DFB Polka. And then they beat them 2-1 in the Super Cup. And then they beat them 2-1 in Champions League final.
They beat Hamburg 9-2 at one point
the
in the
only
league.
time I rooted for Klopp for anything.
Yeah. The one and only time we've ever rooted for Klopp.
Before he
Well,
came
you
to
know what's
pool.
funny? Looking at retrospect, and I think X brought a pretty good point up of just, and you said it too, Jake, the run in for City. Like the funny thing is they had to win everything at the end, and I think that makes it a lot more special because it wasn't like they was playing bums at the end. Like
No.
they had to beat Arsenal. They had to, even though Chelsea was a shambles, they had to beat Chelsea. They had to beat United. Had to beat every team that was worth something, and
to obtain it.
I was gonna say every team played like something, but they all didn't. United was the only one that and United wasn't that good either. But they were just so head and shoulders above. But Jake, you mentioned it as well, like the technical ability of all the players. Like literally, the City players can play anywhere on the field. You stick them anywhere in any position.
Yeah,
They can
Stones
do it.
plays midfield half the game. He's a center back.
But I think that creates an issue for some of those guys because the other teams because. For example, they only put speed out there because they have flyers. Well, there's no flyers really on any of the other teams that would be opponents. So then it would be possession. And then up front, I mean, I think realistically, Holland is enough to pay attention to. I don't know how much he scores against any of those historic teams, but I think he's enough to pay attention to that De Bruyne and Silva and Gundogan would cause havoc.
Eat the
Because
midfield.
Gundogan is the king of ghosting. Like this guy will ghost and end up on your back post and put one in nobody's business. Bernardo's everywhere, and De Bruyne is De Bruyne. I mean, he's a generational talent. So I struggle to give them the best because I understand the effect of recency bias, but they're good. They're good.
Gundogan was on that Dortmund team.
He was. That was the first one he lost.
He scored in that Champions League final.
Yeah, he did score. He had a penalty.
Scored Champions League final. I think, again, at the end of the day, it comes down to metric. As I said, I believe if they all played each other, that City would run them over. But as far as, again, what's your metric? If I like that Patrick went with what team was the most influential. And,
Yeah.
we're still looking up to Cruyff. And
Oh,
Lewis, you made a good point about it at the beginning as well. Is the conversation different in 10, 20 years? Where we look back on this City team and all of their careers are done,
Yeah, when De Bruyne has an icon card and like it's going to be a different conversation.
Add what they do next season and the season after that, and if City go on to win a treble again next season,
Then there's no
and
question.
and then the season after that, like if they do it back to back to back to back, that's just
That's a
conversation
lot
done.
to ask.
Oh, it's it's
Well, yeah,
Messi
but
winning the
If
World
they do
Cup.
it back to back,
This
you're
is
talking
this is
about
a
one of the greatest
conversation
teams of all time.
phenomenal results, you know.
And that's why Patrick's point, I think, matters so much in depth. But I mean, obviously, I said it in sort of in context where you have to really look back at these guys later. Because, like, when we're talking about the MSN team, the reason we're looking at them because Messi was like God status then.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
they allowed Suarez to be there with Neymar, who was
Neymar.
peaking. And I like Neymar left not too long after that because Neymar thought he was going to be better than Messi. Right?
Yeah.
But
Not a
it was
PSG.
but it was insane because you looked at that and then think about it. We talked about Lewandowski. He's still good now, but that Lewandowski, for then,
In
these guys were at their absolute peak
Prime.
of powers when they did it. City's
Yeah.
guys are not even at their peaks, man. They're not. De Bruyne might be there, but Haaland's nowhere near it. Silva's probably not there. There's a bunch of guys in that City team that are not in the peaks of their powers, and they did what they did. So we really have to look back, and I think what and the legacy of what that is, even though you can see the influence is really Cruyff, as Patrick said, because his it's written. I mean, two Barcelona
Player
teams
and coach.
and
Yeah.
City. That's four teams influenced directly. I mean, there's others obviously, but directly by him.
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely.
And mentioning that, we talked about Barcelona with Eto and Henri and
Messi.
Messi. Yeah. I mean, that team's stacked. It's incredible. And you look at that and you see, well, Eto went and won one with Inter. Messi, of course, is not won one with anybody else, but he's won two himself. We
Ronaldo.
Huh?
I said I know Ronaldo didn't win a treble, but it's these players that are able to then take like what you're talking about, take that and then transverse themselves into a different league or a different atmosphere and win. Like I would attribute Gundogan with that as well. Like to be able to perform in the German league at that high status, come over to the Prem and translate it over into being a prominent midfielder. Like Rakitic couldn't do that. He didn't do that. He stayed in Spain, left Barca, and then didn't do anything else with his career. Like I see what you're getting at, Patrick. I
Right.
agree.
And the thing is we look up at these guys and say like, oh my gosh, these guys were incredible. They did it here and they did it there. I mean, we're probably going to do the same with City. Whether it's
when Haaland goes to Madrid and
Real
Madrid wins
or something like
when
that,
Madrid wins 8 straight with Bellingham and Haaland, yeah, it's gonna be stupid.
But
Oh,
I mean, that's the thing. I think as we get further away from this City team, we'll appreciate them more.
Appreciate it more.
I think a lot
It's
of us
still salty with us. Yeah, it's still salty.
It's still very right there, and it's like, well, they've got guys that might be generational in De Bruyne and Haaland, but you compare it to the past teams, with Messi and Henri and Eto and Julio Cesar and Eto and
Well, even in the United team, had guys that played.
Are you kidding?
Forever.
Yeah,
Played
Giggs, Scholes,
Giggs,
Beckham,
Giggsy, Scholes,
25 years,
Roy Keane played for what?
So at the end, So at the end of their careers, it'll change the conversation a bit. I do.
And a couple podcasts ago, X asked the question, or it might have been you, Jake. Somebody asked the question. He said, "Well, would the cloud of the charges affect how City was looking?" I think it was you, X. And I said no, because there's nothing to erase their memory. You can attempt to say, well, 150. You still had to play the game on the field.
Yeah.
None of that
Nothing's tarnished the Barcelona legacy, and we all know that they've paid refs, and we're still talking about the 14-15 squad like they were.
They've been paying refs since we were born, and and we're still giving them
them kudos for 2 different trebles, right?
Absolutely. Well,
moments happened. You can't take away the moment.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
I agree completely. And if you're hoping that your team goes ahead and buys a bunch of trophies, go ahead and get the likes up, subscribe to the channel, and get that notification bell on. We'll be back real soon. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great night.